So, in my third and final preview for today, because we won't know a lot of the. Well, I might be able to. I should take that back. I might be able to get another one done once Boston and Washington are done. Put me to sleep today. And once Dallas and St. Louis are done, and we have a better idea of how the playoffs are going to shake out, I may be able to do more. But I wanted to talk about Vegas and Chicago. This is great. This is the first time these teams meet in the playoffs, and it looks like Vegas should just be able to steamroll them. And I'm leaning towards Vegas. It's tough though because Chicago, for the first time in a long time, I find myself saying, you know what, this is fun. It's fun to see these guys kind of go on a last tour, and I know people don't want to hear that because they don't think of Kane and Taves as being older, but by NHL standards, they're above the average age in the league by a lot. And it's just that's how it works. Now, I'm not saying that they've lost anything or they've diminished, but this is a team that it definitely feels like this would be Keith's last run. This would be Crawford's last run. We don't know what they're going to do with their goaltending in the offseason. The thing is, Chicago can't play Vegas the way they played Edmonton, or they will lose, and they'll lose bad. They can't give up that early goal to Vegas the way they did with Edmonton. They can't rely on shoddy goaltending and shoddy defense by Vegas because it's just not there. Now, when we look at the all-time statistics, Vegas has 7 players that have played all 29 of their playoff games. Points leader is Riley Smith with 30 in those 29 games he's played. On the Chicago side, of course, Stan Mikita is the all-time leader for them with 165 games played and 150 points. Taves isn't far behind those marks. So, at least behind the games played mark. And so there's the possibility that by the time Kane and or Taves have retired, that Mikita's numbers may very well be, if not eclipsed, at least very, very close to being eclipsed. So, statistically, you've got a team that's won 3 Stanley Cups since 2010, but hadn't been in the playoffs since 2017, and a team in Vegas that has never missed the playoffs, but they don't have a Stanley Cup yet. So there's a lot of storylines in this that should be fun. Leading scorer for the Vegas Golden Knights was Stone with 2 goals and 3 assists. He is, of course, one of the best two-way forwards in the game. Shea Theodore, 2 goals, 2 assists on the blue line. Alex Tuch, as I said when I was doing the round robin preview, I thought Tuch was a guy who could perhaps be pretty darn good for Vegas, and there we go. 3 goals for him in the 3 games. Nate Schmidt, a goal and 2 assists. Carlson, a goal and 2 assists. And Raw with a goal and 2 assists as well. Lehner, 2-0 with an 889 save percentage. I think that doesn't necessarily show how well he played. He did play pretty well. Fleury, 1-0 with a 765 save percentage. That's more problematic. This is where if Chicago can get to Lehner or Fleury early, and they know Lehner, just like Lehner knows the Blackhawks, because, he played there, it's going to be an interesting series. Like, if you're Chicago, do you perhaps bump Lehner accidentally on purpose? Do you do that? I think it could be a really fun series. Now, power play during the round robin, Vegas had a 27.3% on their power play, 80% on the penalty kill. Their special teams pretty darn solid. Everything they did in the round robin was pretty darn solid. Shots for 32.3, shots against 26.3, scoreless in the round robin. Not very many for Vegas, to be honest, but Stastny stands out. He had a decent game last time out. He had his chances. I don't think he stays scoreless for long. And for a breakthrough candidate, again, it wasn't very many people who didn't get points for Vegas that wore that jersey. So Stevenson, I went with 1 goal in the 3 games as the most likely for a breakthrough. These teams met 3 times during the regular season. Vegas beat them in a shootout 2-1 in Chicago on October 22nd. Chicago won in Vegas on November 13th 5-3. And then December 10th, Vegas beat them 5-1 in the city of Vegas. So, if you're Chicago, you can look at this and say, hey, we were 1-1-1. We lost that one in a shootout. You don't have shootouts in the playoffs. And you can look at that and say, we can hang with Vegas. Vegas can turn around and say, it's a whole new season. It's been so long since we played before the round robin. It's a whole new season. On the Chicago side, Jonathan Taves led him in scoring with 4 goals and 3 assists. Definitely turned the clock back and played like he did last year during the regular season. Kubalik, 3 goals, 3 assists. Of course, he had all of that very early, very quickly, and yet in their last game against Edmonton, I thought Kubalik played pretty well. So he's somebody that Vegas is going to have to blanket a little bit. Guys like Stone and Karlsson are going to have their work cut out for them, but I think the depth does definitely favor the Vegas Golden Knights. Keith with 4 assists, Kane a goal and 3 assists, and Kirby Dach. Kirby Dach emerged as a legit top 6 forward against Edmonton. Can he do it again? Can Kirby Dach shut down a guy like Karlsson? Can he shut down a guy like Stone when he did so well exactly that for Edmonton or against Edmonton in key moments? But keep in mind, McDavid got a ton of points in that first round, in the play-in, and they can't really afford to have that happen against Vegas or they're in trouble. Oli Mata, 2 goals and 2 assists. Surprising to see Mata get on the board that much. Corey Crawford, 3-1 record with an .891 save percentage. Crawford was amazing in Game 4. He was shaky basically in every game before that for Chicago. Crawford has to step it up. He has to be a little bit better. Even though his save percentage is ahead of Lehner's got to feel kind of a little bit peeved at the fact that Chicago traded him rather than try to keep him. And, of course, their backup is Malcolm Subban. So if there were any reason that Crawford was out of a game, you'd have Subban potentially against Lehner. That's fantastic. This should be a really fun series. Power play, Chicago went 22.2% against what was a great penalty kill from Edmonton during the regular season. Penalty kill, 70.6%. That's a problem. So if Vegas's power play clicks and that penalty kill doesn't work, again, the numbers would show you that Chicago didn't have a great series against Edmonton. Edmonton imploded a lot, and there were defensive miscues that Chicago outscored, and I don't know that they necessarily can do that against the Vegas Golden Knights. Shots for and against, shots for Chicago, 30.5, shots against, 34.3. Held scoreless, Alex Nylander. And that kind of stands out to me because Nylander had some good chances, just couldn't put them in the net. Breakthrough candidate, I went with Dylan Strohm, who had an underwhelming 1 goal. Honorable mention to DeBrincat. And again, this is the battle between Chicago and Lehner on some level, where they decided we're going to go in another direction. Kind of sold them at the deadline to Vegas. And now they're against Vegas in a playoff series that I'm sure at the time of the trade deadline, they never envisioned they'd be in this. Because again, they were sellers. So we can all come back and look now at the trade deadline, say after these playoffs are done, and say, does selling necessarily make your team better or worse? Does buying necessarily make a big difference? I think this year's just kind of thrown all that up in the air. It's not like Chicago added anybody after the deadline, so they sold off Gustafsson, they sold off Lehner, and now here they are having eliminated Edmonton. One thing that you have to wonder, and I'll say this for these play-ins, the Vegas Golden Knights didn't have to worry if they had lost a game about being out. Chicago did. Chicago did have, that fear of, hey, if we don't play well against Edmonton, we're out, we're done, we're leaving. So the fact that they've played the more intense play-in games, does that favor Chicago in Game 1? And if they can steal Game 1, can they get this into a deeper and deeper series? Can they make the Vegas Golden Knights doubt themselves at all? I don't think so, personally. But again, this is why I'm wearing a jersey of a team that I'm cheering for in this series. And to me, I'm leaning towards Vegas, but it's close. I anticipate this being a series. I'm just going to really enjoy watching these teams against each other. Watching Taves and Kane and Keith and all of these guys who are going to be in the Hall of Fame against a team from Vegas that has never been outside of a playoff spot, and a team that did earn the number 1 seed. And of course for Chicago, the number 12 seed, they weren't supposed to be here. So there's no pressure. Offensively, now I don't have it written on the board, but I'm going to say it here. On the offensive side, I do give that to the Vegas Golden Knights just barely, because again, Kane and DeBrincat, Taves, there's a lot of good names there, and I think it's barely in favor of Vegas. Defense, on the defensive side, I give that edge to the Golden Knights for Theodore and Schmidt and the guys they have. And I know Keith is on. I know Keith's playing really well. I know Mata's played really well. But you look at the numbers for Crawford, you look at the amount of goals put up by Edmonton, there are some shaky moments defensively for Chicago. Goaltending, I lean towards Vegas because I think Lehner is probably a better goaltender than Crawford overall. But as Crawford showed in Game 4, he's still capable of locking it down. The team with no pressure, that's Chicago. Chicago has absolutely no pressure on them. If the Golden Knights come out and sweep them in 4, the Chicago Blackhawks can say, well, we gave it our best, we did our best, but, these things happen. And so Vegas does have the pressure that they're expected. The expectation is to be one of the best, to perhaps win a Stanley Cup. The expectation is there. We'll see what happens. So there you go. Let me know who you think may win in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.